Reverse by Black K. Cat. Chapter 27. Ember. The stares itch at Kurama's skin, make him twitchy and tense and ready to throw a punch at the next person whose eyes linger a little too long. It helps nothing at all that Naruto and the other children are back at Zabuza's amusingly quaint little house on the outer edge of the village under Yugito and Hagu's watchful eye, or that Kurama's only ally in this entire damn place is the blackmailing bastard walking on his left.
Easy there, Red,
Zabuza offers, sounding irritatingly amused.
It isn't you they're staring at.
Lie, Kurama thinks with a huff,
though he's willing to admit that Zabuza is the reason they're staring. You'd think they'd never seen you with a girl before,
he mutters sourly, though he does a quick check to be sure the hinge is holding. Sakura's form is easy to maintain, but this entire situation is too precarious for Kurama's liking.
Zabuza snorts. Hardly. I'm a known malcontent, and the Mizukage has called me out before for stirring up unrest. You're an unknown for an inn without a hitayate. Course they'd worry.
And be justified doing it, Kurama thinks, and that's sour too. He's very glad the kids are as far out of danger as is possible right now, because he has a feeling they're about to open themselves up to a whole host more of the stuff. Great, he complains, though he keeps his voice down and tries not to eye one of the older jonin on the street corner like he's sizing him up for a grave.
You couldn't be subtle about trying to overthrow the main military power running your village. No wonder you need my help.
Zabuza's eyes narrow, and he throws Kurama a scathing look.
Fuck off! Yagura's had his chance to change. He doesn't get another.
This man's sense of honor is a complete mystery, and Kurama can't be bothered with the headache that is trying to wrap his mind around it. It's no wonder Naruto looked up to the Kirinin, but hey, Kurama would appreciate it if he'd grow a little consistency. First the graduation massacre, then taking in an orphan, a plot to overthrow the Mizukage, and dying so we could kill Gato and asking to lie beside the body of his dead apprentice as his last request. Either he's a power-hungry psycho with infrequent attacks of conscience, or he's secretly a good man trying to survive in a bloodthirsty village where power rules. Because Kurama's life is never easy. He has a seeking suspicion that it's the latter. It would be nice just once if the bad guy in a given situation could actually be a bad guy.
Well, besides Kaguya, she could have all the tragic backstory and remorse in the world, and Kurama would still want to tear her heart out and make her eat it!
A flicker of familiar chakra draws Kurama from his thoughts, and he looks up just in time to see a very familiar woman fall into step on Zabuza's other side. She casts him a curious look from under a heavy fall of auburn hair, then puts a deliberate sway in his steps and purrs, "Momochi, I don't think you've ever introduced me to your pretty friend."
Zabuza grimaces, clearly visible with his bandages pulled down to hang around his neck, and he growls, "Leave me alone, Tamori."
"I am not going to die alone."
May snaps, slapping him hard in the back of the head. Then she smiles, sweet and terrifying,
and leans into his. "Insult me again, and I'll kill you."
She's definitely the Terumi May Kurama remembers, and he has to chuckle, inclining his head to the one-time Mizukage. Her presence here, especially connected with Zabuza, is a surprise, though Kurama likely should have expected it. The desire to change Kiri that drove her to lead a revolution and become Mizukage couldn't have been a sudden thing. "Whatever," Zabuza says grumpily, though he pointedly steps around to Kurama's other side, putting him between the two Kirinin. "Everyone waiting?"
"Only because you're slow," she retorts, then offers Kurama a smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Terumi May. You must be new. Did Momoji pick you up in a gutter somewhere too?"
"Oh, fuck you!" Zabuza spits, grabbing for the kunai. "I did not!"
May meets him with a kunai of her own, disarms him with a twist of her weapon, and smiles like it's her birthday. "You didn't what? Pick up your kid in a gutter? Adopt an orphan? Show the whole world your big squishy center?"
The glare Zabuza fixes her with is hot enough to warp solid metal. "You're lucky you're a year older than I am," he growls. "If you were my age, I would have taken pleasure in killing you during the academy exam."
With a soft snort, May crosses her arms over her chest and gives him her best. Best. "Look, you would have tried, Momochi. Be grateful I wasn't, or you'd be a charred heap of bones and a bad attitude and nothing else."
Kurama would probably get more done if he left right now and went to go knock Isobu out of his trance by himself. He sighs, lifting his face skyward, and wonders if this is how Sakura felt when Sasuke and Naruto were having one of their frequent spats. Right. If you're the faces of the revolution, no wonder Kiri is screwed.
She hasn't got a damn thing to do with it, Zabuza says faintly to Disney. Bullshit! May counters sweetly. She glances at Kurama and offers a slightly resigned smile. Yagura is dangerous. We might as well work together to take him down, even if our views differ, and then figure out who takes his seat once he's gone.
And that makes sense, given what Kurama remembers happening in the previous timeline. Zabuza faced Yagura alone, probably in a bid to take the hat for himself, and was defeated. If no one could prove May was involved, she would have been watched, but not otherwise punished, which would leave her free to start another revolution a decade later.
A distinct grunt makes Zabuza's opinion on that idea clear, but he doesn't answer.
Instead, he grabs Kurama's shoulder and pushes him to the right towards a round, weathered building, almost completely covered by moss and twisted trees with trailing branches.
In here, he orders. Terumi, seal the door.
Because that's not suspicious at all, Kurama mutters, snatching Zabuza's hand and peeling it off him. Pause to yourself, shark face. I'm more than happy to break it if you leave it where it is.
Ooh, feisty! A new voice mocks, and Kurama glances away from the swordsman, eyes darting over to the two strangers on the far side of the large room.
One woman, one man, both with swords of their own carried openly. He doesn't need to be a genius to figure this one out. Two more of Kiri's 7 swordsmen being on the side of the revolution is a surprise, though. He hadn't thought Zabuza was so widely supported among the powerful shinobi. Likely Zabuza took the fall while all the rest kept their names clear, he thinks, though he recalls Chojuro mentioning that several of this generation of the 7 swordsmen died young and under mysterious circumstances. Also likely is that Obito had a hand in that. He wouldn't want opposition to his puppet Mizukage. Shut it, Ameyori! Zabuza grunts. He jerks his head towards one of the couches, then orders,
Sit! This is everyone important. I thought we weren't going to bring anyone else in on this level!
The man says, crossing his arms over his chest. White hair, lanky build, purple eyes. Hiramakarie at his waist. Kurama is willing to bet good money that this is Sugetsu's older brother, Mangetsu. May raises her hands, dropping down onto one of the chairs in an elegant sprawl.
He was already on his way here with her when I caught up to him.
The last, a small woman with dark red hair, crosses her arms over her chest and grins playfully. Not that I object to another girl around here, but an explanation would be nice, Zabuza.
This seems as good a time as any to drop the henge.
Kurama raises a brow at Zabuza, who grimaces but nods, and then lets it slide away. There's a second of startled silence as 3 pairs of eyes go wide, and then Ringo Amayuri laughs, pushing to her feet. She circles Kurama, steps swift and light and nearly silent, and stops in front of him, leaning in to study his face with a grin. Uzumaki Kurama! Now this is a surprise! Aren't you a little short to be the scourge of the hidden villages, pushing us ever closer to another world war? What? Kurama asks, caught off guard and entirely bewildered. He blinks, casts her an assessing glance, and decides she doesn't look crazy. None any more than Zabuza or Mangetsu, at least. Like hell, I'm starting a war. That earns him another laugh, but before Amayuri can answer, Mei snorts. You're lucky you're from Uzushio, she says dryly. Anywhere else, even if you were a missing nin, and Konoha, Kumo, Iwa, and Suna would already have razed your village to the ground. They don't take kindly to people stealing their genjiriki, you know. I didn't steal them, Kurama protests, glaring at her. And he didn't. He didn't even kidnap them, honestly. They came with him willingly. The closest word he can think of is, I rescued them. If the villages are going to turn children into Jinchuriki, they should treat them like goddamn children, not monsters. Not weapons. May looks at him, looks like Zabuza, and then raises one incredulous brow. I can't decide if you're soulmates or mortal enemies in the making, she says with amusement, then waves a hand dismissing the sentiment. Whatever. Momiji, are you thinking this is the solution to our Utakata problem?
or our Yagura is going to destroy us in a fair fight problem.
It can't be both. Zabuza drops down in one of the chairs, stretching his legs out in front of him. I'm not certain how all of this jerky stuff works, but Ren, you can take Yagura, right? Probably. Kurama doubts that Obito is adding to Isobu's power. It's probably even taking away from it because a weak Biju is still a Biju, and Yagura doesn't exactly need a lot of help to be stronger than most of his shinobi. Beyond that, Isobu has 3 tails. Kurama will manage. I'm not going to let you kill him, he says flatly, crossing his arms over his chest and glaring at the 4 Kirin. Yagura's about as much of a victim here as all of you. Mangetsu frowns, tilting his head a little, while Amiguri and Zabuza exchange incredulous glances. Only Mei doesn't look surprised. Her mouth tightens, eyes narrowing, and Kurama has seen that expression on Sasuke and Sakura's face enough times to recognize, why the heck did I have to be right? When he sees it. You knew. Mei doesn't deny it, even though it nets her 3 startled and faintly betrayed glances from her co-conspirators. I had hoped I was wrong. Before he became Mizukage, Yagura was different. Kinder. We both wanted to see Kiri move beyond his reputation as the Bloody Mist. Now he's just adding to that. It could be that the power went to his head, but the Yagura I knew was always too kind. This one right now isn't kind at all, and Kurama's more than ready to lay that at Obito's door too. He's a vicious petty bastard, and Kurama is absolutely certain that turning Kiri into one massive competitive bloodbath is his revenge for their shinobi killing Ren. Granted, Kiri didn't need a lot of help to get there, but Obito definitely pushed them down the path. And as much as Kurama wants to stay under the radar, especially where mad, dangerous Uchiha are concerned, this could be a huge blow to him. Mentally, if nothing else, because Kiri is practically as twisted by Project right now. Kurama remembers Naruto's fight with Obito the first time. When Obito got angry, when he got confused, Naruto was able to get through to him to negate the madness. And there's nothing in the entire world that will get Obito angry and confused like Rin. So use her somehow. Maybe make a connection to Madara being responsible for her death. That might just be enough. And if it's not, well, Kurama will deal with that if he has to, and pray to the sage and whatever gods might be listening that Obito's eye won't work on him when he's wearing Naruto's body. Where's Utekata? He asks abruptly, turning to Zabuza. I'll talk him and Saiken into helping you so they can deal with the small fries. I'll take care of Yagura. Well, no, Mangetsu demands incredulously. We've been preparing for years, you can't just... Then you'll be thoroughly prepared. Kurama bares his teeth at the man, half smile and half threat. I have things to do when I'm only helping because it helps the Jinchuriki and their Biju. If you've got a problem with that, I'll gladly pack up my brats and leave. Stop, Ameyuri says sharply, stepping between them and raising her hands. She glares at Mei, who nods, and then offers, We're flexible, so it could work. I'll alert our forces among the Jonin, and Getsu notify the Chunin. Dawn tomorrow? Fine, Zabuza grunts. He rises to his feet, rolls his neck to crack it, and says, Terumi, you coming? With a gracious invitation like that, how could I resist? Mate flows to her feet, flicking a hand at Kurama. Put that tension back on if you can get it right the second time. We don't want to attract more attention than we already do. Kurama snorts, but does as she says. Sakura's form is still easy to get right, and he flexes her fingers, remembering all the many times her hands saved Naruto or Sasuke or uncountable others. He's not a healer, doesn't think he could manage it, even if he tried with a life on the line, and maybe that makes it more impressive than it is. But he's going to stick with all of her as a solid reaction. It makes him miss Kanaha as he follows Zabuza and Mei outside into the misty grayness. Not the Kanaha that he left just a week and a half ago, but Naruto's Kanaha, with Sasuke and Sakura and Naruto walking side by side down the street. With familiar faces, old friend, the village itself battered and a little rough, but whole. Maybe Kanaha isn't the best place, and maybe the people there have never made all the right decisions, but it's the closest thing Kurama has ever known to a home. He'll figure it out. When all of this is done, he'll see what it would take for them to go back. A sudden, furious scream makes Kurama jerk his head up, weight shifting on the balls of his feet and hands coming up, but there's nothing. He glances around them, then catches Mei's exasperated expression and raises a questioning brow. Something up, he asks, faintly suspicious. Mei rolls her eyes.
Some asshole has been peeping on the women's bars, been winking at him, she says disgustedly. I'm just waiting for him to try while Amayuri's in there. She's got a temper and she'll laugh as she eviscerates him.
Kurama pauses in the middle of the street, eyes narrowing as suspicion niggles its way through his brain. Still, it's not likely. Perverts are hardly unique to Kana'a, and besides, it couldn't be. It couldn't. There's not a chance. It couldn't be. Could it? Before he can decide one way or another, Zabuza says, There, up ahead, follow that path towards the sea cliffs. Utakata does his katas by the rocks. Should be easy for you to find him. Now that he's paying attention, Kurama can feel the bubbly brightness of Saiken's chakra, oppressive iridescence with an edge that burns like acid. He takes a breath, breathes it in, and feels a flicker in the Salag's chakra in return as Saiken notices him. Without pausing, he leaps past his companions, darting down the path between overgrown houses and then deeper into an actual forest. The track curves, edging around the trees, and when Kurama rounds the bend, it's to a whirl of sea breeze and the smell of salt-choked water. The road runs straight along the low cliffs, the seaward side of it tumbling down in a cascade of massive rocks to meet the churning water, and a few 100 yards down, there's a small figure standing on one of the boulders. Kurama wastes no time. He covers the distance quickly, then leaps lightly up, landing on the rock across from the slim, dark-haired teenager. It's not safe, not smart, but he lets his chakra rise in answer to Saiken's, heavy, hot red, and edged with the bite of a deadly wind. The boy's amber eyes widen, but he doesn't take a step back, instead pressing a hand to his chest and holding his ground. Meeting his gaze, Kurama lets the henge fall again and says quietly, The slug might already have told you, but my name's Kurama. There's a brief, careful pause, and then the boy inclines his head. He mentioned you, he says, equally soft. I'm Utakata. Is it true you're rescuing the Jinchuriki from the villages? If they want to be rescued, Kurama allows, studying the faint lines in Utakata's face, the paleness that speaks of exhaustion. I have to say I didn't think you'd listen if the Rokubi was talking to you. That earns him a faint smile, but it's enough to bring humor back into Utakata's face. He comes to me sometimes while I'm meditating and trying to clear my mind. Master Harusame says it's because I don't try hard enough to shut him out, but... I shrug, swift and almost embarrassed. He's never tried to take control, and he likes my bubble jutsus a lot. They're exactly the sort of thing that Saiken would be enthusiastic about, that's for sure. Kurama snorts softly, shifting back on his heels. The old man's just full of bad ideas. The slug's a pushover, and I bet he'd give you all the power you could use if you just asked nicely for it. I've gotten that impression. Still smiling a little, Utakata drops to sit on the rocks, folding his legs under him. He wants to speak to you. Is that alright? As much as Kurama wants to avoid the Biju shared world, on the off chance that B is looking for him, he's also a little too wary of Harusame coming along any minute and freaking out, then moving up his timetable for being an absolute moron and trying to rip the Biju out of Utakata. I'll go meet him, he offers instead, mirroring Utakata's pose and resting his hands on his knees. And after that, I've got a couple of people I want you to meet. Interest wards with caution on Utakata's face. The other Jinchuriki? Saiken said one of them was close to my age. Yukito will be overjoyed to have another fully trained ninja around, Kurama thinks with amusement. Yeah, they're nearby. It'll do them good to have someone a little older around. But they have you already. Utakata hesitates, then says so softly it's barely a breath. Why are you helping them? And of course, there's always a moment where the well-adjusted child slides away to show just how screwed up being a human sacrifice makes a kid. Kurama sighs a little, raking claws through his hair, and then answers bluntly, Why not? Someone should. I can, so there's no reason it shouldn't be me. Besides, one of you guys is family, and the rest might as well be. One person against the whole world won't do a whole hell of a lot, but 9 Jinchuriki standing together, there's a reason the villagers tried to keep you secret and separate, kid. They haven't got a chance in hell if the 9 of you try to change things together. I'm just showing you a way. Instead of answering, Utakata flicks him an unreadable look, then closes his eyes.
Kurama rolls his damaged child. Sage, defend him!
And does the same. One breath, another, and
a forest when he opens his eyes. Not the familiar one where the sage created the 9 of them, but smaller. More recently familiar. It's where Naruto first touched his powers, where Mizuki tried to kill Iruka and Naruto saved him. Kurama smiles a little to himself, looking over the scarred tree and the bare ground around it, because this was the first time since the night of Naruto's birth that he really stirred. Before that, he'd been too tired, too wounded by half of his chakra being stripped away, and he'd slept for 12 years. But that was the nudge that woke him. A faint pull as Naruto drew his chakra away, and he'd opened his eyes and stretched. Reach! Another Uzumaki, he thought derisively. A boy this time, loud and dumb and lonely. Easily corrupted with enough power. Kurama has never been so glad to be wrong. Kurama! You're tiny! What happened? Did you even catch you? Matatami and Chome and Shikaku won't tell me anything! Saiken. Kurama answered with amusement, rising to his feet and turning to look up at the slug. I like your host. He seems pretty level-headed. Saiken burbles happily. He's cute, isn't he? And he's got such pretty jutsus. Hanin is my Hibiton. When his father sealed me into him, I thought it would be terrible. Terrible! But I don't think I mind as much as I thought I would. Kurama takes a moment to parse that, because even Naruto at his most energetic doesn't talk quite that fast. But then he snorts and shakes his head, trying not to smile. He's easily annoyed by his other siblings, even at their best, but Saiken is hard to get angry at, and even harder to stay angry at. He's just tearful, happy. Good. He finally settles on, I'm glad for you. Have you heard what's going on? Ice stock slang. Saiken shakes his head. Matatami is still tired, so I didn't bother her, and Sun is ignoring me. Kyugi doesn't know what's happening either, and the others won't let me catch up to them. Well, that's likely to be expected. They're not friends, the 9 of them, even if Kurama remembers them being that way in his time. People are after us, he explains. They call themselves Akatsuki, and the sage's mother is controlling them so she can take back the world's chakra. She needs us to awaken the Jubi, though, so she's having her damn pawns collect us. I'm trying to get the younger ones somewhere safe so I can break the Jubi's vessel and at least stall her a little. There's a long moment as Saiken digests this, and then he deflates a little with a sound like a sigh. They'll kill the hosts, getting us out of them, he says mournfully. The sage was a good person, why can't his mother be as well? Do you want my help? Can Utakata and I take care of the children for you, or is it too dangerous here? Do you want us to take them somewhere hidden? And that's one massive problem solved, just like that. Kurama breathes out a shaky breath of relief, pressing a hand over his face, and retracts every even mildly offensive thing he's ever said about Saiken. The slug is a damn miracle. Thank you, Saiken. Yes. If you and Utakata would be willing to watch them somewhere safe, I would gladly leave them with you. But first I need to ask Utakata for his help with something else. Do you mind? Saiken burbles at him somewhere between amused and fond. Go, Kurama! You were always so active. I'm glad to see that hasn't changed. Let me know if I can help. That's what little brothers are for. Best little brother in the world. Kurama agrees with a smile and steps back towards reality, opening his eyes to see Utakata watching him. There's a wariness in his expression, though Kurama is fairly certain it's not directed at him. Sorry, he offers a little gruffly. Not pleasant stuff. Utakata hesitates, but shakes his head. I'd rather know, he says firmly. What did you need my help with? Kurama glances back down the path towards where Mei and Zabuza are doubtless still waiting in size. There's a revolution about to kick off. The main players want to know if you'll help them overthrow Yagura. Amber eyes flicker, then fall shut, and Utakata takes 3 even breaths. When he looks up again, there's no trace of emotion in his face beyond cool distance. Yagura killed my father, he says without inflection. He was never a good one, but he was still the only parent I ever knew.
The only reason I was allowed to live was because of Saiken. Inhale, exhale, and tell me what to do. If you're helping, I'll help too.
How disappointing.
The dull but sharp-edged voice startles Kurama back to his feet even as Utakata flinches and he spins, cursing himself for being so distracted. He let multiple people sneak up on him. Not just a handful, but at least 20, all jonin, and at the front.
Yagura.
Kurama growls and darts a look to where a grim-faced Zabuza and a serene Mei are being held tightly by their fellow Kirinin.
Let them go.
Yagura gives him a derisive glance, but doesn't answer. Instead, he turns his attention on Utakata, who is just rising, pale but steady.
You were allowed to survive because your worth to the village outweighed the potential problems that the Saindame Mizu's Kage-san might cause, Utakata. I see now that that was a mistake that must be corrected. Will you come to face your punishment freely, traitor?
Slowly, deliberately, Utakata slides a hand into one of his weapons pouches and draws out his pipe.
I've done nothing wrong,
he says firmly.
You can't punish me for talking to someone.
It's instinct that has Kurama stepping sideways, putting himself squarely between the kid and Yagura.
Pick on someone your own size, brat,
he says flatly, trying to gauge the distance between himself and the group. The pouch full of kunai that Roshi gave him is thankfully at his waist, and he eyes the array of Kirinin, assessing. There's no way he can take out all of them, but if he can drop the ones holding Mei and Zabuza... Yagura regards them with empty, eerie eyes, and Kurama wonders with a shiver of fury and horror how no one else can see the void where something should be.
Kanaha and Suna warned us that you might attempt to threaten us within our very walls. It won't work, Uzumaki Kurama. I suggest you surrender the Jinchuriki and turn yourself over to our justice.
I've got a better idea. Kurama growls, baring his claws and sinking down to balance his weight on the balls of his feet.
How about you go fuck yourself instead?
Yagura's mouth tightens faintly, and there's the faintest spark of something in his gaze.
Very well. I'll deal with you myself.
He pulls the long, hook-ended staff from his back, sweeping it up and around, and Kurama braces himself, trying to figure out how the hell he's going to manage this. One spark of personality isn't enough, but if Kurama can get more... Fine. Great. Fantastic! He'll make the crazy Obito-controlled Jinchuriki with complete control over his Biju lose his temper! That might make him sloppy enough for Kurama to break the Genjutsu. Either that or get him killed. 50-50 chance. Well, maybe 40-60.
Sober, you damn idiot.
Kurama growls, leaping down from the rock and landing lightly on the road. He lets his chakra flare, a heavy corrosive miasma of red and black and concentrated malice, and sees several of the Jonin sway under the force of it. Wake the hell up already, or I'm gonna beat you bloody! There's no answer from the turtle, not that Kurama really expected one. Instead, Yagura's staff comes swinging at his head hard and fast, and Kurama has to drop and roll to avoid it. He comes to his feet right within Yagura's guard and takes pleasure in the surprise that flashes over the deceptively young face as he drives the fist right at it. Wake up! Chakra ripples and flares, covering Yagura like a red and black cloak, and he catches Kurama's fist in one hand. Stop saying that! He hisses low and deadly, and the tail whips around to slam into Kurama's side, knocking every last bit of air from his lungs and lifting him right off his feet. He hits the ground hard on his back, then throws himself out of the way of the lash of water shaped like a dragon. It explodes as it hits the ground, but the drops hang in the air, then whirl back towards Yagura as he twists. No hand signs, no poster-crafted jutsu, just a wave of water hurtling at Kurama with deadly force, and Kurama doesn't know if he can meet it in time!